Could be getting somewhere.
We're live.
And Jack,
We're live.
We're live?
Ah, we're live. There you go.
Well, maybe. I'm not seeing you here.
We could potentially be live. We don't know.
I think you went on a live.
Quick, Mercy. Somebody tell me if I'm live here. I don't know either.
Might went on a different one.
Oh, this is awesome. First live stream and we're already having hiccups. That's great.
Yep, there we go.
First live stream and we're already. Oh, we're live now. Okay,
We're live.
good. We're live.
Yep, there we go.
First live stream and we're already. Oh, we're live. All right. Okay, good. We're live. First, we want to say hi to Kev C. Hello. Nice to have you here. I'm gonna have to adjust that camera again. There. A little bit better. Slightly better. Okay. So, where do we want this? By the way, this is Donna. Donna, very good to have you here. We love it. Now, first thing we need to do is I need to find my notes again. But before we even get started, Marcy, do you want to jump in? You want to have any part of this? No. Marcy doesn't want to have any part of this. She's right there. You can't see it. Okay. There you go. There's Marcy's hand. This is fantastic. I love it. We see you. Perfect. Live with the Donna. Yes. Live with the Donna. Not just Donna, the Donna.
I'm not living that one down.
Not ever gonna live that one down because it was awesome. It's not even a name anymore. It's now a title, is what it is. It's Donna. It's crazy. Kelly, have you ever watched Suits? Like, this is the Donna. Yeah, turn her phone on. Why don't you?
Turn your volume down so that we don't have echo. And you got a hello, Marcy from Kev.
There we go.
Hit the road, YYC. Brian, hello.
We're doing great so far.
Yeah, there you go.
So you got to say hello, hit the road, YYC, and Marcy, you got to say hello to Kev C.
I know. I don't know.
You don't know. She'll figure it out. Anyway, the first thing is this is a very unique situation because you have a very interesting life. Because, well, I say very interesting because we've talked about this several times, and very politely, but you've been very, very generous with the way you've been talking about things. Like, you're not shy, which is great. So, do you want to talk a little bit so that we have an idea as to where you're coming from about what it is that not necessarily brought you to van life? We'll talk about that in a minute, but what your life has been like roughly over the last 10 years or so.
Oh, the journey?
Yes.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know me, I am widowed, and this was actually the second marriage for me, and so 3 years into our life, he had a stroke, a life-altering stroke, so his whole left side was paralyzed, and so it really changed the role for me as far as spouse, partner, and whatnot. Now the caregiver is the primary target of my role with him. So did that for 11 years. In the last 2 years of those 11 years, he was diagnosed with liver cancer. So it was like a double whammy.
Yeah.
And so then I had the journey to go through because I suffered from caregiver burnout towards the end of those 11 years. And so one of the things that I knew I was going to do once he passed away was into self-care for myself. So that took several years for me to get to the point where I was happy with who I was. If that makes sense?
Yes.
Because my life had been so surrounded about him for 11 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it was to find myself, really, and then give myself time to say it's okay to relax, it's okay to wind down, it's okay to do this, and not working 2 full-time jobs anymore.
Well, yeah, because your home life would be a full-time job by itself.
Yeah.
And then working for a living, obviously that's a full-time job. So I can imagine the burnout wasn't small by any means.
No.
It was pretty significant, I'm imagining.
Yeah. And when I got to that point where I seek counseling, well, I didn't seek it because my doctor was working with me. She knew what I was going through and my situation at home. Had a fabulous doctor, and she finally said, we need to get you into counseling before you go any further. And so I accepted that offer of counseling, and it was the best thing I could have done. I also felt like, it's like that song from Jelly Roll, "It's okay to not be okay." And I also felt like at that time when I accepted that counseling that I failed.
It's going live. Let's see what it says on there. It's going live. There we go.
Got it.
All right.
Yay.
It's going live. There we go. You got to put your hand way further in front, Marcy.
We're back. There. Thumbs up.
Okay, what am I doing here? I'm looking for my notes again. So anyway, we left off with, and I'm hoping this is all going. You
Yep.
want to tell me we're going good?
Yep.
Okay. So the idea that we left off on was you were getting caregiver burnout.
Yep.
Which is a huge thing. Is that what drove you to the van in the first place?
No.
No. What brought
No.
you to the van?
The van idea, it kind of was there in the background. At that time, I wasn't even thinking retirement. I wasn't even thinking I'll go into van life to travel, that kind of stuff. I mean, I was at a point where in that first few years of journey, like, when I talk about it, the video I did on December 27th, I said there was a lot of alcohol involved in those first few years of my grieving process, right?
Yeah.
Then I did the Camino in 2017, which was my walk for my grief process. I couldn't get that sucker out of my mind. And then I went through a phase where I just wanted to find a piece of land, get the hell out of Dodge as far as getting away from people, find a little home to put on it kind of thing. And I didn't want nothing to do with people. So the whole self-care movement took me through many stages. And I would say 2000, because I retired in 2023, maybe about 2018, I started thinking about retirement because I was going to retire in 2020 and couldn't go nowhere, so I kept on working. And so then I thought, well, and then you couldn't find a van once COVID hit. Couldn't find a van, and so I got lucky on getting this little van, and it was a matter of I was on a lunch break, and I thought, I keep seeing these vans on this lot. I'm just going to go in there and see if they sell them or if they only lease them, right? So I didn't want to lease the van; I wanted to buy it. And so I walked out at lunchtime in that van. Within the hour, I had made that decision. Traded my little lime green Kona that I had for 4 years, and I thought that would be my retirement vehicle. So it didn't sink in yet that retirement's going to happen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we froze again. No, we didn't.
Oh, good.
So then the rest is history. And then when I retired, and I actually chose the date, Feb 2nd, which is Groundhog Day, to be my retirement date. And my first trip out of there was like, you could only got one more trip left in you. Which one do you want to do? And
that's a great way to look at it.
East Coast. So 5 months I was gone.
There you go. So we got a plan for 5 months. Yeah. We're actually going to be doing an East Coast trip, but that's another story. So, well, I was thinking, like, I don't know how I should say that, but how has van life helped you with the grieving process? If it has helped with the grieving process, how has it?
No, I don't think it helped me with the grieving process as much as because I think the walk that I did in 27 really helped me with the grieving process. I think with the grieving process, there's always going to be moments in time, whether it's year 5, something's going to happen. There's always going to be triggers.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through that slump again for a bit. But the thing is, do you have the skill set now to kind of recognize it? Because I would go into this depression for the month of December because I spent the month of December in hospice. My birthday's in December, Christmas, all that stuff. I mean, he literally looked at me from his bed and said goodbye on my birthday. And I thought, when he started that whole apnea type breathing, and I thought, no, he's going to die on my birthday. This is what I was thinking. But he went on for another 21 days. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a good thing because that brings you right to Christmas.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
celebrate Christmas.
no, I imagine you
I
wouldn't.
don't. I have no desire to see a Christmas decoration, and that's why I try and get away. Well, how do you get
Yeah.
away at Christmas time unless somehow you can find someplace that doesn't celebrate? There's Christmas decorations all over the place. It's really hard to get away. So camping is quite whether it cooperates.
Well, there you
It's
go.
the thing
So
to
in a way,
do.
it has helped you a little bit because it gets you
Yes,
away
yes,
from.
that's true. Yeah,
See,
but
that's a good thing.
but I also meet like-minded people that I can get out there, especially with retirement. So I'm not just sitting around and doing nothing,
Hmm.
and I don't want to do that. But the walk was the best thing for me for my grief process.
Excellent. So just it's a little bit off of the notes, a little bit off. Well, it's on topic, a little bit off point.
Hmm.
But what would you, I don't know, recommend for someone that was going through something similar to what you have or what you've experienced? If someone was going through that, would you say go on a big walk, get a van,
No,
do that
I
kind of thing?
wouldn't say go on a big walk. I would say the number one thing is get counseling. Go into group grief sessions and whatnot. Because I had one-on-one. I was very fortunate with my doctor. I had a monthly meeting with a social worker and my doctor. So my doctor was there just to kind of manage my ailments as best as she could, but the counselor was there mentally for me and helped me emotionally come to terms with certain things, right? Because when I started that counseling for uh, caregiver support, like how does Donna uh, make time for Donna and not for everybody else?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, the when he had his diagnosis of cancer, then he was able to be there for me to help me with that part as well,
Hmm.
because that just amped up my caregiving even more. So it could be something as simple as I would take 2 nights a week and go to the pool and do a deep water workout or something like something that was for me,
Hmm.
nothing to do with him, right? Or I would come home and say, look, I know you've been home all day, and I know you want to see me, and I know you want to talk to me, but I was in a very high stress job with payroll.
Hmm.
I just need half an hour to veg out. Just give me that half hour, right? And so the dogs
Yeah,
and
well,
the
you need it.
cats would crawl all over me, and that was it. Just so helped me, um, just to try and manage my stress level and get myself into a
Yeah.
better frame of mind, so then we can have a more enjoyable evening. Or because often we would be sitting there, and I'd be so tuned out, not listening to him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of thing, right? And I understand his point because he's home all day by himself, so you know he's waiting for me to come.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah,
They recommended you come in and you just take a half an hour to yourself.
yeah,
And then you can be still and talk to the people, but
yeah. It's not that we were never fighting. No, because that's the good part of what got us through a lot of stuff is how well we got along. And he
Hmm.
would see how much it was taking out of me, especially when he had his cancer diagnosis, and I spent my holidays trying to help him get to the hospital because he was so sick. He wasn't really realizing how sick he was. But he saw that, and then I started working in things like I would go on a 1 week cruise by myself, right? So there, I'm not doing anything. Cooking's done for me. Cleaning's done for me. I'm literally all I can do is just be me
relax.
and relax, right?
Yes.
And it works because the moment I got back, within 2 days, I could feel all that tension and stress from that coming back. So then it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to do this more often.
So how does that translate into you being in the van now?
Well, I learned to do things for myself, right? I learned to go on a trip by myself, and so by the time van life came along, when I retired, to go travel by myself wasn't an issue,
Hmm.
right? So
That's a
a
good
lot of
thing.
that helped, you know, like
Yeah.
even walking across Spain. Like, yeah, there was other ladies in that, but often you're walking by yourself, right? So you learn to. My girlfriend said it best. You learn to appreciate who you are and enjoy who you are and love who you are.
Yeah, well, that's obviously a very important thing.
Yeah.
So, if anybody has any questions, and I see Kev is the only one that seems to be there right now, but hello, Kev, again. But anyway, if you have any questions, don't be shy. Ask. We'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what's been the most unexpected emotional experience that you've had in the van?
Oh, I think when I retired and took off to the East Coast was the best. I was out there and because when I went out to the East Coast, I went up from Baie-Comeau and went up into Labrador that way and then came around to Newfoundland
Hmm.
to Happy Valley, Goose Bay down and then went over. And I never told anybody which route I was going to take until almost the end because I knew I was going to hear the stories. Oh, that road's not a safe road, or you shouldn't do this by yourself, and all that other stuff. And I was like, no, I want to see that man at 5 p.m. I'm going. Right? I did my homework. I did the research to know that I'm going to be at a cell service, and I know where the gas stations are going to be, all that stuff. So um, doing that and accomplishing that trip, when I came back and I was in the Sioux visiting with my brother, and he came out and he said, we're quite proud of you.
Oh, good.
And I thought, oh, I've never heard that from you before. So, and it's like, yeah, I did accomplish something. But I have that mindset, right? If I've got a goal and I'm going for it, I'm focused on it. To get
Well,
it
there you
done.
go.
Yeah.
And hi, Randy. Never mentioned that before. Hello. I love seeing you here, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a different experience when you're doing this,
Yeah.
especially for yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'm just taking a wild stab. It's like I've traveled myself. I've traveled alone. I've traveled with other people. I've traveled with groups. So I've got a different experience than you do because you're coming from a completely different place
Mhm.
where you're doing this for self care, which is great. And I commend you for that. I think it's fantastic that you're doing it. And it's something that, like when Marcy and I were talking, Marcy did not want to, she wanted to travel, but she didn't like the idea of solo travel at all. So traveling with me was kind of a bit of both. It was a little bit, okay, we're traveling as a small group, but we're still doing our own thing. And it's a different experience for her. How do you find it traveling and I'm way off of my notes here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So how do you find it traveling when you're by yourself? Whether it's all the way out to the East Coast, which is like 5 months, you said. So that's a heck of a thing. You should turn that down. It's just going off here. It's crazy. Crazy nonsense with Marcy all the
So
time.
what's the question?
So the question is,
That's
yeah,
right.
it's all Marcy's fault. So the idea is, when you're traveling by yourself, like how is it as a single woman that's traveling? You're not traveling as part of a caravan. You're not traveling as a group. You're not
Mhm.
doing the tours. How is that traveling for you? How do you find that?
Um, so to me, and I don't know how to explain this, being a woman had nothing to do with it,
Good, and it
right? It,
shouldn't.
it had nothing to do with it. Um, it's a matter of being comfortable with being out there, knowing, like, I would often, I didn't book so far out. I don't like traveling by booking so far out. I would like to wake up in the morning and say, okay, where do I want to go? Then I do like to have my place by the end of the day. So I would stay at campgrounds and things like that. So I knew where my destination was going to be, but I didn't have that planned, like way out. I just knew that I needed to leave Newfoundland on July 2nd because I had to get Ziggy to a vet appointment
Hmm.
in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So I had my senior dog too. So I'm still kind of in the caregiver mode, but now it's a
Yeah.
pet, right? But he was a great companion. I mean, he was always my buddy. I always referred to him as my soul dog.
Yeah.
But uh, so I had to watch my travels and things that I did around him too, because I couldn't leave him behind. Because I had a stroller for him, so if I had a place where we can go for walks with the stroller, that's great. But I never ever thought of it as a woman I should be doing this or not doing this. I have a mindset, and that's probably what kept me going for 11 years. It's and maybe it's part of my upbringing. It's like just get the job done.
Mhm.
Dig in, do what you have to do, and get the job done. And so some of the friction between my husband and I sometimes, because he was an only child, right? And I'm one of 9. So it was like I would look at him and I thought, yeah, you can tell you're an only child, right? I think because the way his mentality was. And I would say, oh, by the way, me here.
Well,
you know.
yeah.
So yeah,
I love
yeah,
Randy's comment. I just noticed the comment. It's like, get it together, Marcy.
yeah.
I love that. You're awesome, Randy. Keep up the
Yeah.
good work.
But yeah, I mean, coming back to that question, I've never thought of it as I'm a woman. I should be concerned about traveling by myself.
Well, you shouldn't,
You
because your
shouldn't.
gender doesn't dictate whether you
No,
can drive a car. It doesn't.
and your gender doesn't dictate whether you have common sense or not,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right?
You know what a
So
rough neighborhood looks like as well as anyone else. And it's I want to say common sense, but let's be honest. Common sense is not common.
no,
It really isn't. But the idea is, when it looks like a rough neighborhood, you don't feel comfortable, you leave.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, to me, that's common sense. That's something you just should do. Male or female, old or young, it doesn't matter. Just you're an intelligent human being. Act accordingly.
yeah.
Like that's my philosophy anyway. But that's
Well, it's like my trip up into Labrador. I knew that once I got to Manic 5, I was running out of cell service. I didn't have cell service again until Labrador, and I stopped and camped at a place. That was some of my best time on that trip, where no one could reach me. But people that knew where I was going said, "Okay, I'm going out of cell range here. I'll be back in cell range here." So they had a period of time that if I don't show up,
Yeah.
maybe then you can call the police. But
Yeah. Yeah.
see, that brings me to another interesting point. We have something that's called CoachNet, and what I find CoachNet is fantastic. If we go into a dead zone, their computers are constantly tracking where we are,
Mhm.
which is fine. It's tracking my phone, tracking Marcy's phone, tracking the RV. But if we go into a dead cell area,
Mhm.
and the computer knows it only takes an hour to get through that zone, we're not out of there in 3 or 4 or 5 hours. They know something's wrong, and they're just going to send someone out.
Yeah.
They're not waiting for the call. They're just automatically sending someone out. Did you have something like that for you?
Nope. Nope.
Well, good for you for
Nope.
doing it.
Nope.
I think that's fantastic.
If
So,
if I'm doing that and something happens to me, I went through my life doing what I wanted to do.
That's the thing too.
Right?
You're-
I'm at a point, like once you hit, like I'm 66 now, so once you hit a certain point in life, my end game here is death.
Right.
And I'm going
And
to
it
do
is
my
for all of
best
us.
to, because you hit other miles, like 25 years old. Well, now I'm big old 50, and now I'm 65. And there's no other goal to reach besides death.
yeah, to be fair, that's not something that we often think about. That's not something we often talk about. I hate it. I think it's total BS. But the idea that death is a taboo topic is just garbage, because I don't care who you are. You're not getting out of this life alive.
Yep.
You're not doing it. I mean, there's only a few handful of men that have actually been, but I say men, it's just people in general. I'm not being sexist. But there's only a handful of people that I can think of from the Bible that have actually made it out alive. Enoch being one of them. Like his entire city went with him. Like, great, good for you. I'm obviously nowhere near that good, so I am expecting that at some point I'm gonna die,
Yep.
and I'm going into that with that mentality. I understand.
Yep.
And it's just whenever I do stupid things, like I fall off my scooter. Which, oh, by the way, Boho, I can never say that. I apologize. So
Maureen,
change your name.
hello.
Change the
Boho
name.
Blue
I
Band.
can't. Words are hard.
We will be meeting up soon.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's the idea of when I do something that's stupid, it's like when I'm doing it something really, really stupid, like when I fell off the scooter, it was like, okay, sure, I got hurt, but today's not the day I die.
Yeah.
It's not today. It's gonna happen, just not today.
Yeah.
And there are crazy, stupid things that have happened throughout my life, and it's like, not today. So I imagine it's something similar when you're traveling and you're going into these new areas, these new places. It's like, we're not gonna die today. It's just one of those things where,
And I have no control over that. I mean, I could
well,
die
exactly.
I could have a crash on the highway or whatnot, or you know.
Yeah, you never know when it's
Yeah.
going to come.
A moose couldn't come out in front of me, like, especially in northern Ontario, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I just do my best to be as alert as possible, and like I said, I was prepared when I went up into Labrador, but people didn't accept the fact that I was prepared, right? It was always, well, what happens if you break down? Well, I can walk to the next phone because Quebec's very good. They have an SOS phone so many miles apart, right?
Yeah.
I said, or
Apparently,
Here's-
Jackie's leaving. So bye, Jackie. I may
See you,
have missed you,
Jackie.
but bye anyway.
yeah,
And I'm going to get this right. I promise. Boho Blue Van. Love having you here. Wow, I can't say that name for the life of me, which is terrible. But anyway, I've got 105 questions. We're nowhere near any of them. Like, okay, how about like one question here would be, what would you give? Like, what kind of advice would you give to someone else? Not just any like. I was gonna say the impolite thing, which is, what would you have to advice to another woman? It's like, well, who cares about gender?
that's right. Because you know what, men go through this too.
Well, exactly. So, what advice would
And
you have for anybody
anybody,
looking at doing this?
it's if you want to do this and you're unsure, then I would say do it in small steps. You could do like I do. It's because I had a dog and I had other things, and thought, I boondocked a little bit, not a lot. I'm not a great boondocker. I've said that from many, many times. Those that do it for years. I think the world of them because it takes a lot to do that. But go to campgrounds. You're not alone. You're not 100% safe either, but you're not alone, right?
Well, just say, when are you
the
ever
risk,
really
the
100%
risk is
safe?
even reduced. It's
Yeah.
like people would say, like, there's that, if you're in a spot back in so you can drive out. And I look at that and I think, what makes you think they won't block you in, even if you could drive out and there's vehicles right there? They can block you in whether you drive in or whether you back in.
My philosophy on that one's completely different than everyone else. And now, instead of trying to drive out, like, we've got a great big rig here. We can drive up, we can drive through somebody. That's not a problem. We've got the torque and the horsepower. But the idea is, if you drive in, you can back out. Here's the thing: when you back in, like, somebody else blocked you in, you go to drive out, you're going to smash your radiator. You're not going to get far down the road.
Yeah.
You're going to smash your engine. You're not going to get far down the road.
Yeah.
You don't have that much torque because you didn't have that much of a run up to get there. You're just going to spin your tires. You're not going to be doing well if you try to drive out. But if you put that bad boy in reverse, smash the back end of your car, yeah, and engine's fine. I'm good. I'll go 2 hours down the road before I have to stop. I don't care.
Yeah.
But and you have more torque when you're in reverse as well. So you can actually push their vehicle a little bit further, a little bit faster than if you drove into it.
Yeah.
Whereas with a bigger rig, yeah, you could just plow through whoever you want. But that goes again to common sense.
Yeah, because you're not anywhere safer either way. But maybe instead of 5 months, do a month at a time or a week at a time. Just take baby steps, because that's what I did prior to him passing away. I took baby steps to do things on my own, right? So I would do that 1 week solo cruise, or go off to Hawaii or whatever things that I do, because he can no longer travel, and he understood that, and he didn't want me not to travel, kind of thing. So, and this was my break, so he was very supportive after a few times doing it. He wasn't so supportive at the beginning because he wanted to go, but he doesn't understand that if he comes with me, I'm still working.
Right.
I don't get my downtime.
Yeah. So, okay,
Again,
outside of that topic, because I don't want to be a burden to you on that one.
Yep.
As much as I love talking about it, because it's something that at some point we're all going to face.
I'll have to face it.
But I don't want to be a burden. So let's talk about the van for a little bit. So what kind of modifications have you made to the van that make you comfortable in there?
Comfortable as in,
And whatever comfortable looks like to you.
the only major, my van is pretty basic. The only major modification I did was I had the pop top installed. And that's because when I decided I would buy the Transit Connect, if I was looking for a larger van,
Mhm.
I thought, okay, well, I can get a top put on it so I can at least stand up in it or whatnot, right? And so that was my compromise to get a van.
Yeah.
But as far as, my build has changed 3 times
I imagine it would continue to
because
change.
I overpacked, I overdid it when I first went for like 5 months, right? And
Marcy.
I've learned to pare down and whatnot. Now, mind you, I had the dog with me for the first 5 months, and I had more food for the dog than I had for me because he was on a specialized diet. I had 6 weeks supply of food for him
That's
because
quite a bit.
I didn't know if I could find the food when I was in Newfoundland. So I again, this is part of that
That's a good point.
thinking about where I can get the food and how long it's going to take me to get there. So, yeah, I have more food for him than me.
Yeah, because really, let's face it, there are grocery stores
All
everywhere.
over the place. Yeah.
So you really don't have to worry about that. That's one of the biggest problems that we've had. Marcy has a tendency she can't shop for 2 days. I promise you, she can't do it to save her life. She shops for a week or 2 weeks at a time. She can't shop for 2 days. Can't do it. So we have a relatively small fridge, and you have an even smaller
I have a
fridge than
smaller
yours.
fridge. Yeah.
So Marcy's idea is, well, I bought 2 weeks worth of food. Why doesn't it fit in the fridge? It's like because it only fits 3 days of food. You don't need more than that because when are you ever more than 3 days away from getting new food?
Yeah.
So that was one of the things. So how do you like? What is your thought process when you're going to buy food?
Oh, very, very. I don't like to cook. So it's like when I'm traveling, I'll stop at a food truck or whatnot and something that, I can, when they give you some food, it's 2 meals for me. Or I'll stop and get something. So I'll have things like my oatmeal for breakfast or my coffee. Obviously, I have my coffee when I make coffee, but I'll buy coffee first before I make coffee. If I know there's a spot for me to get coffee, um, that's just more of a treat for me. That's I've
Well,
lived
there you
this long.
go.
I worked hard,
See,
and
that's an important thing is to have treats. And I find
yeah,
that what we've done, we don't stop for treats as much as we should. I'm huge on rewards. I really am. And it's something that I've done. Maybe you've done it. I'm not sure. But Marcy had never done this. Where what we did was one night we started off with I think it was what 11 or 12 at night. So it was a crazy time of night. What we did was I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and celebrate Marcy's win. I said, just for giggles, let's go do this. So let's go down to the Max. It's not far from my house. I'll take my scooter over. You drive, and just. But I'm in my pajamas. I'm like, yeah, and like, who's out that's gonna care? It's like it's midnight. Who's gonna care? Who's gonna notice? So what we did was we went out and we just celebrated that. Like I can't remember what the win was.
Finally decided on
There you go. She decided on what
mhm,
camera she was gonna buy. So the idea was
yep,
just like, who cares? My brain doesn't register whether it's her win, my win, or your win. It doesn't know.
yep,
It just knows that I'm celebrating, so it releases all the dopamine I ever wanted. So it was great. Let's go do it.
yep,
Every time we travel, it's like we need to celebrate every time we do something. I don't care if it's a little Reese's peanut butter cup,
yep.
my absolute weakness. I love those things. But even if it's just that, or if it's get another pot, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Just something to say, I'm celebrating. And it's something that we do, which is great. Do you do anything like that? Do you have any kind of celebrations that you do?
No, because I don't go out. I no. Uh, I would say no because if I want something, I've learned this over time, right? I just buy it. If I really want it that bad, I tended to be a person. I'll put it down, go home, think about it, and then say, yeah, I want it, and go back when it's gone. And my husband used to give me crap all the time. Why didn't you buy it? Right? And because I didn't want to spend the money on it. And so I've learned that, sure, why not? I need a birthday present. I need a Christmas present. Even though this is April, I'll say, I need a birthday present. It
It
was,
doesn't matter.
for all the years I've done without.
Yeah,
It's
you
my
you
it's my
deserve it.
turn. It's my turn.
Well, it's one of those things
Yeah,
like you save up, you work your whole life, you
yeah,
save up your whole life. You're in your say your 80s, and you're still not spending your money on you. What are you keeping it
yeah.
for?
Like I'm not foolish with it. Like I,
Wait,
I
well,
can't I
there's a
can't
line
wait
there.
for. There's sometimes there's stuff that I didn't really need, but I got my Jackery, that kind of stuff. I did have a bigger fridge, and I gave it to my son. I bought a smaller fridge because I knew the
Really, a
fridge
smaller
was,
fridge.
yeah, the fridge was, I never used it to its capacity, so I
Yeah.
gave it to him, which was meant wore one of those Beaux RVs that's meant with the wheel and handle, you can wheel it down to the beach. Well, that wasn't going to happen with my van fridge, right? So I went into a smaller. I only have a 27 quart fridge, and it's rarely full
Mm.
because I just don't. I just buy stuff on the go.
See,
And
our fridge is it's constantly full. We're always fighting, like trying to put my pop in there tonight. Was like, why? And I'm stacking it. It's like, why am I stacking? There should be more room than this.
Yeah.
We're only gone for 2 days. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. But still, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous nonsense. But
So-
then,
I mean, I got a Shine 2 that I ordered through Kickstarter, and it's a little windmill thing that, and I got the cord so I can charge up my Jackery with it once it comes through. I won't get that till September, and didn't need it, but I thought I want it. Didn't
there you
need
go.
it, but I want it. So,
Well, it's like you worked all your life to get to the point that you're at now. Don't save it now.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of Marcy. Marcy is an absolute hardcore saver, and heaven bless you for that. It's great. I'm not.
yeah, but you can spend too much too fast, right? I mean, I do need to make it last for a certain period of time, but I mean,
Which, yeah, that just makes sense.
what's wrong with having something? You know,
Yeah, but your once in a while is literally once it's been a while, and then once it's been a while. Whereas my
there's
thing is like, if I really want something, great, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to think about it. And it's 9 out of 10. I could do better.
yeah,
Well, there's something where like I want that, and then that's all I can think about. And it's like I have to have that.
Kevin is saying here, buy practical. That's what I always say. True, I am pretty practical,
Yeah.
but like I didn't need it because I have a solar panel. So
I'm saying blowhole. I don't know why, and it's weird, but blowhole blue van. It's the blue. I think that's what does it for me. It's BBV. That's it. She's BBV now. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that one. But no, she's got a really good point. She says that she only eat cold food that she can't cook in the van, and that works. I mean, but here's another question, because now that we're off, let's get off the topic of food because it's making me hungry again. But how do you find places to shower? Because in our rig, we have a shower, so it's not a problem for me. You have a much smaller van.
Right.
Where do you shower?
well, because the majority of my time is campground. So
Yeah, and
when
the
I'm
campgrounds
traveling,
typically come with
these
showers.
They also come with wash and dryer, so I can get my laundry done at night versus during the day, kind of thing. So my day is strictly for travel.
There you go.
And I did join Lorraine and we did some boondocking there a bit, but a couple days without a shower, that's as far as I can go. I need that shower, right? And I know that about me. So if I was going to need a shower and do this full time, I would need a bigger van, and that'd be part of my setup.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you get lonely like while you're traveling by yourself?
No, and I've been asked this question. I do not, because I've come to a point where I enjoy my company.
Yeah.
Right now, last year, because last year I did not have Ziggy because Ziggy passed away after my first trip out. Last year when I was traveling and I was down in Washington, Oregon, especially Oregon, when I would do a lot of beach walks and that was the first time in a long time that I felt alone. I didn't feel lonely, but I felt alone because Ziggy was the
That's an
last.
important distinction.
Yeah, because Ziggy was the last of our pets, right? Because Ron and I never had children together, but we had our pets.
See, we almost need another microphone just for you. I wish I'm going to figure out my other microphone. I have two of these microphones. But anyway, what Marcy was asking was, do you feel alone? Oh, I have no idea what's going on. We got no idea what that is. It didn't pop up on that screen. We're doing great. As long as nobody else is having a problem, we're doing fantastic, and I'll take the win. But no, the idea is, do you feel alone when you're traveling alone? And you were saying that you don't, which is fabulous. So what do you do to combat the loneliness? Like, do you go to movies? Like, do you do stuff like that? Do you go to restaurants?
See, I don't feel lonely.
That's fantastic.
What do I do as far as because those are two different things? Because that's what she was asking, right?
Yeah.
If I want to, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do on Friday? And I was like, maybe I'll go to a movie. I will go to a movie now.
Yeah, I've done that once. It sucked. I didn't like it.
I didn't like when I'm there and I'm watching the movie. I don't even know how many people are around me because I'm in my space.
Well, good for you.
You know, I will. It's like sitting in a restaurant eating by yourself. That one was the hardest one to adjust to, but now I
Yeah.
can do it, and I don't have. It doesn't bother me.
I've done that a few times,
Yeah.
and it feels really weird.
Yeah.
You either need to come sit over here. You need to speak a lot louder. Make
Okay.
sure the microphone picks you up. I've done the yeah. Come on over here. Have a seat. Bring the footstool over. Whatever you need. But no, the idea. Like I've gone out to dinner a couple of times by myself, and it wasn't a big deal. By the way, everybody, this is Marcy. Just so you know, hi
Hello.
Marcy. Marcy's my ultimate travel companion. She's awesome. No, I've gone out to dinner by myself, and it's at first it's like I feel like the creepy weirdo because
Yeah.
it was just by myself. It's
Yeah.
like I'm the creepy weirdo that doesn't have any friends, and
Well,
like,
I
what am
didn't
I
feel like a
doing?
creepy weirdo. I just felt eyes were at me. Oh, she's alone, or she stood up, or something.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
And this was stuff that I was making up in my mind. It had nothing to do with it. Once you got comfortable doing it, it's like people aren't even paying attention to you. You know?
Yeah, if you thought about how often people think about you, you would
Yeah.
never worry about it again.
Yeah.
Because people really they couldn't care less about you.
Yeah. So I've not ever, and I pushed myself to do that after he passed away. Is get out there and do things on my own. It could be a thing like a paint night. I would go out to a paint night, and even when you arrive by yourself, they say, "Are you by yourself?" Yep. And
I went
do
out
it.
one time to the Banff Springs, and I was in the nice lounge there, and I decided I was going to go there and have a glass of wine. I'm sitting there all by myself. The waitress brought me over like a little newsletter, the Banff newsletter, because she thought, oh, this girl needs something to do,
Yeah.
right? Like that was humiliating because I was like, oh, I must really look pathetic.
Yeah. But you know what? Often you see a couple sit there and this is what they're doing.
Right, they're on their
They're
phone.
not
Yeah,
even.
Oh,
in it.
no kidding.
They're not even in the company of each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a fabulous picture. Marcy and I were out for breakfast the other day, and it was hilarious because I had my camera and I'm taking a shot from table level, shooting straight across the table and up at her, and she's just sitting there playing on her phone. It's like how often in our society do we do this?
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, back to on topic. You're great, but I want to go back on topic here a little bit because I have a lot of questions. I actually put effort into this.
Okay.
But anyway, so what are some essential items in your van that you just can't live without?
Oh, now?
Yeah.
My toilet.
Yeah, that's something that nobody talks about.
Yeah. Now
But you've
I
got a
have
different
toilet.
system.
I got that just before Thanksgiving, before we went to the band meetup in Boat Trail.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your toilet because
So it's a Jolta, got to go toilet, made in Australia, and it's perfect. It's got the separator, but that is the bonus. Before that, I was using like a bedpan kind of thing. And it's just a process and it's a pain in the butt. But this also works as my sitting area because it's a nice height. A lot of those toilets that you see in the stores are not very high. I think this was like 17 inches high. So it's perfect for me. And that's the best buy I have ever done for that van.
that's like a lot of people are using, and it's not a delicate topic, but a lot of people are using a bucket and a bag. That's what they're using. So to have an actual full blown toilet in such a small rig, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that nobody really talks about. And we should. We
Yeah.
should normalize like death happens. You poop. It's like this is
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Food goes in, it's gotta go somewhere. Usually to my thighs, but that's beside the point. So anyway, so what are
This is Marcy. I'm so jealous of your hair. I had blonde hair, long hair. Now I'm balding. Yeah.
Well then,
talk to me about it? No, you get keep your hair short, no one will ever notice. That's the trick. See, Marcy, you can't get away with that though. And there's Carrie Jean was in there. I saw her a second ago.
yeah.
Marcy! Hi, Randy. Gotta say hi to the man.
Hi, Randy.
Randy's awesome. He's a really good friend of ours. So anyway, so what tips do you have for maintaining your vehicle long term on a road trip? Because you're on a perpetual road trip right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this year is a little bit different, but I mean, even last year, I was gone for like 2 or 3 months, and then it came back, did a 2 week recovery, and then back out again for a couple of weeks. So I always do my oil changes. You know, I had back in I think it was February 24. I had my transmission fluid, all that flushed out, replaced. And, they're just the tire rotations. And, I always have mechanics do that so many points check on my vehicle before I get ready to go. And in fact, I'm getting red flush done,
Mhm.
before I go on my BC trip. And I thought, it's been a while. And I'm up to 127,000 K on that vehicle. It's probably time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you would do that anyways, not even if the fact that you're out on a trip. If you were home and working back and forth, you would do your regular maintenance anyways.
Right.
You would.
Yeah.
You're
So
just doing it more frequently.
yeah, you got more oil changes coming in, more tire rotations, and you
Mhm.
go through tires more.
Yeah.
If you're putting on a lot of. I mean, I still have original brakes on my van,
Well, that's pretty
and
good.
so they're saying maybe the fall do my rear brakes. So that's why I pay them.
Yeah.
Tell me what I need to do, take care of my vehicle, and if I need that
Exactly.
repair done, then
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
So,
you're much better off to maintain it than
Yeah.
to just let it go.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
$1,000,000 question: where and when do you get maintenance done on your vehicle? Like you go into, like, say, a Jiffy Lube, and there's a Jiffy Lube in pretty much every town. So do you go to Jiffy Lube, or do
yeah.
you plan somewhere specific?
No, I go, and if I watch where my kilometers are going, if I got to get my oil change, say where am I going to roughly be, and look up at oil changes. Whether it's the Jiffy Lube or
Mhm.
some of the other ones that are out there. If it's to do work on the van that I think needs to be done, I try and reach out to a Ford dealership, which again that could be hard, right? Because then do they have the parts available, like some
Mhm.
of the filters, that you need to replace? And that can present its challenges.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking if you have somewhere specific that you have in mind. You got to lean back a little bit so that I can see the
If
camera.
I knew
Okay,
that I
I'm
was
gonna
going to
move
get
over here.
Are you gonna ask more questions?
Nope.
Yes, she will. Don't let her lie to anybody. Don't believe that. That's just
Here.
pure garbage. She will interrupt as soon as she gets the chance.
If I know, like, my tire rotation, get my 'cause I was having this thing with my brakes that was going to, it felt like, I would push pressure and it was like bouncing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh no, your brakes are fine." And I thought, "No, they're not. I know when my vehicle's not operating right, So then I end up going back to Cal Tire, and they did some maintenance on my brake pads, and it just that problem went away.
Well, there you go.
So it's
So there's another question. Like, it comes into, when you're planning out that, does your route change according to where you need to get the maintenance done, or does your
um
maintenance change according to where your route is?
no, I wouldn't say my route changes. Um, I mean, it may have to. It depends on what the maintenance is, right? But like when I went into St. John's, for example, okay, I know where my kilometers are. Let's get the oil changed on. And then I kind of continued on. That's okay. Now I'm going to be around here. Where's the best place to get the oil? The next oil change done. So I had a plan of how I was going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my goal originally was 1 month in Newfoundland, 1 month in Nova Scotia, 1 month in New Brunswick and PEI, you know, and then start making my way home and whatnot. But yeah, I just didn't know where I was going to stop in each state.
Well,
That
exactly.
was day by day. When I was in Washington, Oregon last year, that was different, trying to find campsites. So I had to pre-book my stops along the way, which is not how I normally travel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, let's talk about how you normally travel for a second. So when it comes to, like, what exactly do you do? Like, I've got an idea, but
well, I mean, I don't want a big. This is my itinerary. I've got time, right? Um, I like to wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to go this way. In fact, it happened to me. It was I was out in Vancouver Island, and I had messaged Lorraine. I said I took the ferry over to Gabriola Island. I spent an extra day there, and a fellow came up and knocked on my window while we were on the ferry, and he says, "I took a picture of the back of your van." I said, "Sure." And he goes, "I sent it to my friend up on Malcolm Island." And he talked to me, "You walked the Camino." So he was talking to me about the Camino because apparently his friend wrote a couple books on the Camino. And so he said, "You got to go up to Malcolm Island." And I thought, well, if you didn't even know where Malcolm Island was. wasn't even on my radar. And then he said, he goes, when you go to Malcolm Island, go to, I think it was Coco Joe's Cafe. They have best breakfast coffee, and he wasn't kidding. They do have the best breakfast and coffee that I've tasted on the road that year. And when I went and I was camping, I was just taking a down day and relaxing. And I thought, I woke up that morning getting ready to go to the fair, and I thought, I'm going to Malcolm Island.
Well,
And I
good for
did.
you.
And then when I was in Malcolm Island, because they had a big baseball tournament, so it was kind of noisy and whatnot. But the people were so polite that, come on out, watch the games, come out, eat. We've got lobster, we've got crab, we've got all this. And I thought, I don't eat seafood, but we got burgers. And, they were just being very hospitable, like they are. And then I seen Alert Bay was looking at the island around, and I thought, I think it's Comoran Island. It has Alert Bay, and I thought, I'm going to Alert Bay.
A little out of the way, but yeah, go for it.
And so I just take a ferry and go over, and there I was, Alert Bay.
That's always a fun thing. So, how many hours during a day do you really typically drive?
Well, that all depends. When I was in the Washington, Oregon coast, I made my stops like 100 miles apart kind of thing, because there was just so much to see on that coast. It would take me 6 hours sometimes to go 100 miles. If it stop, go, stop, go, stop.
Yeah.
Because beaches and beaches, and, yeah, I mean, driving, I like to start my day off around 8, 9-ish, be done around 3.
That's not a bad plan. See, we're usually doing it totally different, where we don't get rolling until around noon if we're lucky, because we sleep in, we take our time and have breakfast, then we break down everything. We've got to repack everything, and then we get going. It's usually like around noon before we get going. So 5 or 6, we're still on the road.
Yeah.
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock rolls around, the sun's starting to set, and it's like, well, this is really stupid. And then we pull in, and it's dark, and that's something that we do, which is stupid, and I would like to change that because I don't agree with what I'm doing. That's why I'm calling it stupid. I can call myself stupid. That's okay. Never going to call her stupid because holy crap, I got to live with her. To be fair, that's
And
not
survive.
nice. Yeah, and I got to survive. You think this was from a scooter accident? I put the dishes away wrong one day. She got violent. It was terrible. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. She didn't do that. It was the scooter. The scooter attacked me out of nowhere. But anyway, no, it's the kind of thing where leaving first thing in the morning is great, and being able to stop partway through the afternoon, it's fabulous.
Yep.
I really appreciate something like that because driving in the dark is not always the most fun thing to do.
That. But like even when because I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, so I would visit with my son there and whatnot. But even to make my trek home, I kind of like to get on about 9 o'clock. Then the school buses are done running. I can get there, and I want to get done by around 3 or so. But as I'm making that trek back, there's some stops, like especially from Thunder Bay to Winnipeg. There's that stretch. It's just a hard stretch for me to do. And then I get past Winnipeg, and I start getting into the prairies, and it's like, oh, I'm on. Let's go. Right? And it's like, boom, I could do an 8 to 10 hour day on the prairies. Yeah. But then I'm not stopping to sightsee. I'm heading.
There's not much to see anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a really interesting point. BBV, and I'm going to stick with BBV. Just made a really good point that she doesn't feel lonely, but after a few days alone on the van, chatting with someone in a coffee shop or a grocery store is often enough. There you go. Do you feel the same way?
Oh yeah, like when I was traveling, I often had people stop, especially once I put that top up on the van, especially at the East Coast, because they don't see a lot of it down there. The West Coast is full of them. West Coast is full of the West Values and whatnot. But I would have, I don't know how many people stop and just ask me, like, did you buy it like this? And how did this happen? And, especially men, for some reason, that just anything to do with vehicles, they're right on it, right? And I would have many women saying, you drove all the way here from Alberta and you're by yourself. And I said, well, I have the dog. I'm not by myself, technically. But, yeah, so there was always a conversation going on. And I would meet people and talk to them. And, and I enjoy those moments when I have that time to stop and talk.
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We were talking to another van lifer just up here, and she was saying, and I'm not going to throw her under the bus and say who she was, but she was saying that most van lifers are introverts to begin with. You want to see things, but you don't want to people very often.
Mhm.
You get out there and you people for a few minutes, and you're like, I'm done. I'm good for the day. I did my peopling for 20 minutes. I'm done. Or you did your peopling for an hour, 2 hours,
Yep.
whatever it is. So I'm completely different. Like I will people all day, every day.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when it comes to me being alone, it's like I'm cool with it. I have no problem. Like I'll drive for 6 hours. Like, yeah, and so what? So I drove for 6 hours. Like I don't care. It doesn't register anymore. Just like when I'm talking to people, it's like I'd be talking to somebody for 2 hours, and like, what do you mean it's been longer than 20 minutes? Like I get used to talking all the time.
Yeah.
That's a me problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I get it because as a child growing up, and even well into my adulthood, I mean, I was so shy that even people that know me are surprised at how I'm out there and I'm talking to complete strangers. And whatnot. That then my life has just grown over the years, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. It's changed. I would never have been comfortable doing that before.
Yeah, that's interesting how that's changed for you. Do you find it's because of the van, or do you find it's the opposite?
The band. I wouldn't say it's the band. It's the fact that I'm out there traveling and I'm stopping and I'm getting experiences and meeting people. Because when you're in a campground, you will meet people,
Yeah.
right? Because you've got people there. Um, but even if I'm in a parking lot, I mean, I had a lady kind of honk her horn at me just the other day. I was at Staples parking lot. She goes, "I love the stickers on your van. Some people don't like the stickers on your van, and that's okay. It's my van, right?"
Yes, not
And
your van, not your problem.
but it I chat with them when we talk a bit about it. And he goes, "Oh, you've been all over the place," kind of thing. I said, "Not quite. I'm getting there." So still more to do. Coast to coast. There is one more coast.
Yeah, there are three of them in Canada.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I really want to do with Marcy is I want to take her up to the Yukon. Not just the Yukon. I want to go see the Arctic Ocean from Canada. I want to go over to Alaska, which really, let's be honest, a lot of Alaska is south of Yukon. But then I want to go past that. And I want to go see Canada, and I want to show Marcy things that she's never even thought of.
Yeah.
Because when you go to Churchill, everybody goes to Churchill at certain times. And yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
It's popped up. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But as
Yeah.
long as nobody else is noticing, we're doing great.
Alaska's beautiful. I've done some cruises to Alaska.
There you go.
Good for them.
Yeah. See, that's just one of
Yeah.
those things. I mean, I think it's great getting out there, and I think it's fantastic that you're doing it all on your own. So, just as an example, what are some of the wonders that you've been able to see by traveling alone that you wouldn't necessarily have seen with someone else?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's anything I would have seen that I couldn't have seen with someone else, as long as they were willing to do what I wanted to do, kind of thing, right?
Exactly. But how often is that going
But
to
the
happen?
thing is, the fact that I can change my mind like that, and I joke about it every now and then. I said I was made to get up in the morning and change my mind, right? And but I mean, I had some fabulous times on the East Coast. I had some fabulous times on the West Coast, and I met some amazing people when I was in Vancouver on the island, and when I was down, I did the meetup down in Oregon, and so I met some amazing people when I was down in Oregon. I still stay in touch with them today. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there is. If someone was willing to live this lifestyle with me, I don't think I've seen anything that we wouldn't have seen together.
Yeah, but you'd have to have someone like Marcy and I. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So whenever she says, "Well, I'd like to stop," great, we'll pull over. I don't care. And if I want to stop, 50-50, but I tease. But it's one of those things where if I want to stop, we stop. If she wants to stop, we stop.
Yeah.
And I could you're by yourself, so of course you're going to stop.
Yeah.
And if you're traveling with someone like Marcy and I are traveling, then it would make sense that you're both on the same page. But the idea is, how often would you drive all the way out to the East Coast if you had someone else with you? Like, how many people do you really know that would be on board with doing that? Like, I know, just as an example, Marcy, and I shouldn't be over explaining this, but I'm going to because I'm terrible. Anyway, Marcy wants to see the East Coast, and I know what the real estate looks like between here and the East Coast because I've done it many times. So it's one of those things where I want to show her the things that are in between the two coasts.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where would you have actually found a friend that wanted to do that trip, or would you have to fly out to the East Coast and then tour around?
Ooh, that's a tough question because after my husband, like if my husband hadn't had a stroke and all that stuff, and I would have definitely gone on a trip like that. We would definitely have gone because we were very in sync that way. Like every weekend we would go for a walk, we'd go out, do it, you know, all the ball or go somewhere, and whatnot. He would have definitely been all over that. And then after when I went in that self care mode, and I think I mentioned this year, I wasn't even looking for anybody to be ever in my life again, ever. And maybe my trip down to Oregon kind of softened me up a little bit because I mean, literally, I had blinders on, so because it wasn't even on my agenda. So I mean, for me to meet somebody that I could travel with, even if they're on their own vehicle and just like a buddy system or whatnot, I don't know. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's whether it be a woman or a man, I'm sure they're out there. So Kevin actually, look what he said. Let's go to the Arctic.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, let's
Yeah, let's go
go.
to the Yukon. Yeah.
So like, there's a question that nobody has addressed. I've watched a ton of van life
Yeah.
channels. I've watched a ton of RV channels. The one thing that no one ever talks about, and I'm going to do a whole video on this, and it comes spoilers. I'm doing a whole video on this. There's a van life community where we've got half a dozen vans out,
Mhm.
and then there's the RV community. And you look around, there's a dozen or so RVs that are out here and smaller trailers that fit in
Yeah.
between. But the two usually don't get along. I don't know what it is, but we've got a great big rig, and we're a little spoiled. We have a big kitchen, we have a big living room, we have a dinette where you're living in a van that would literally fit right
I
here
could
in this
park it in
space.
here. This would be a
Yeah,
luxury
exactly. Like this is your whole
garage.
thing, and this is half of
Yeah.
our RV, and this is even a small RV. So it's one of those things where I'm trying to break the ice with everybody. Last night I was teasing a little bit about, we could have a dance party in the middle here. There's just so much room, and we could do all these things. And hey, if we get bored, 8 people can pile into the RV. We're gonna be fine, and that kind of thing. But you can't do that with a van. So when they say, you can't really have company, like maybe one person, maybe, and that's a really friendly person that you like because your van is so small, you can't do it. So do you find
My van's built for one.
Well, exactly. So, do you find that do you find that RV people stick to themselves and van people stick to themselves, and it's just two different communities?
Well, I never really noticed it because, like, I don't know if people here realize that we're at a van group meetup that we organize. But
By the
of
way,
all the vans that are there, what we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had Brian with his truck. 6, 7 with the street. Only one is full time. The rest of us are part time.
see,
Because
we're part time right now. Well, you're part time. I'm actually full time for a little bit, which I love. I got to tell you, love it.
yeah, I mean, I met that gentleman over here that has the teardrop, and he's retired and whatnot. He's been doing this now, I think, 5 or 8 years, traveling around in his teardrop and just going about. And he does mostly boondocking type and whatnot. But it, I think the RV people, most especially here, probably people that are still working and this is their home away from home kind of thing, or their home in this case. So
Well, I find a lot
I
of
just don't know if they clash or if it's just there's too
it
much
seems
difference.
like exactly.
They're different. Their model is different. Their objective is different. They're at a different stage in life. They're not ready to take off and do full time RV.
Well, the biggest thing that I find is when you get truck people, they're hardcore truck people. And you get car guys, they are hardcore car guys.
Yeah.
It's like, you're both into automotive. Why don't you get along? Why don't you have the same show? Why don't you have trucks and cars at the same show? They never do. It's either you're going to have a truck meetup where it's just trucks and everybody's got 4x4s and they're kitted out and they're fabulous, or you get the car guys and they're kitted out and they're loving
Yep.
their life, but the two of them never get together. It's like, you're both buying the same crap. You're both doing the same thing.
Yep.
Get over your differences and get along. And I find that with RV people, with van lifers, they don't get along. It's like, okay, I'm full time in this rig, and just for sake of argument, you're full time in yours. You're part time. We'll call it part time. We're both part time. Even if we were both full time, so what? I'm still a person. You're still a person. We all had dinner together. It was great. I loved it. I mean, I know Marcy had a great time. Like, so what? Who cares what rig you drive?
Well, it's all about your perspective, and you want to get along with people or you don't want to get along with people. And it's like when you meet, like I think that's the other thing with the band life people that I've met over long, the ones that I stay in touch with. It's just we have similar interests, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Something in
but
common.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I think it's, and I hate saying this, I think it's easier to say, I have a van, you have a van, therefore we can get along.
Yeah.
When it's like, yeah, but your van might cost $150,000. Someone else's van might only cost them $5,000.
They
But
still
you
do
get
the same
along.
thing. They still do the same thing. It still
Exactly.
gives them the point A to point B. They still enjoy the van life the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is where my beef comes in, where, I'm driving around in a Class A. We've got someone else that's towing a fifth wheel, and they're going to come over and they're going to talk to me. We're going to talk all about our rigs all day long. It's like, okay, why doesn't the van person come over and talk to me about my rig versus theirs? Because I'm happy to go over to anybody. I'll talk to anybody. Ask anybody that knows me. I could talk the ears off corn. Like, I'm bad for that. Yes, I know. Marcy's shaking her head. But no, it's one of those things, like, I don't care what it is that you're driving, because there's one van that's just over here. I can guarantee you that's $130,000 rig, at least 130, if not substantially more. And it's beautiful. I saw a little bit of the inside. It's kitted out. It's nice. This rig cost about the same price.
Yep.
You're like, why can't we get along? Why does it have to be different? And it's, for once, I got someone to actually ask the question to, because we're getting along. We've gotten along the entire time. There's never been an issue. I'm just wondering if we would have met somewhere like this, where we were just random camping and I came over to your site, would you still talk to me?
Sure.
So, that's the thing. Like, would you come over here and talk to me?
I don't think
You would
I'm not the
think.
one that stops. I'm not the one that goes over to your site and strikes up a conversation. If I'm walking along and we connect, as far as I'll say good morning, hello, all that stuff, and if we happen to get into a conversation, fine. But I wouldn't be the one that goes, say, gee, can I see your rig? Yeah, I'm not that type of person.
See, I am.
But yet anybody can come and ask me to see my band. I'm not bothered by it.
See, that's where it comes in. Introverts versus extroverts.
He wants to go and chat with everybody in the whole campground.
Yeah.
Oh, I really do.
And I'm like, no, let them have their space.
Yeah.
They're out here to be in solitude and, just say hi and have a small conversation.
See, we need another microphone over here.
Going back and
Because
forth.
you're doing it again.
Back and forth. Like chatting with everybody. Sometimes I just feel like they want their own space.
Yeah, because it's generally you go camping to go
Because I do.
unwind and
Yeah.
relax. And,
Well, here's a
Yeah.
question for everybody in the chat. Can everybody hear Marcy? Because, like, it's quick. Let me know in the chat real quick if you can hear Marcy. If you can, great. If you can't, I'm going to make her come back here again. We'll move the computer and everything. And
Kevin wants to see her hair.
there you go.
again.
Hit the road says they can hear Marcy just great. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yay, good.
So that was the big thing. I want to make sure that you do get heard. I do. I want to make sure of that. So it's a matter of, if I have to put the computer in a different spot so we can see what's going on, great,
Yeah.
I'll do it. But I want to make sure that you're heard, because you've got some very valid points. And I find that people have a very different personality when they're at home versus when they're out camping. When you're out camping, you're a little bit more open to other people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to come over and have a beer at my fire? Great, come on over, sit down, have a drink, have a pop, or whatever. Like, just let's sit here in front of the campfire. And like, great, I'm automatically that guy anyway. Like, I see somebody that's walking around the neighborhood, I will say hi.
Well,
I am not shy.
reminds me of a situation when I was in Nova Scotia, and I was making my way down. I was going to go to Peggy's Cove and try and find. And then I thought, oh, I'll stop near like Dartmouth or Halifax and just stop there. Turns out, because we're getting a bad storm coming in, and turns out there was festivals, so there was nothing for miles and miles and miles to book, right? And then thought, well, maybe because it's such a bad rainstorm, maybe I'll book a hotel. Well, $330 to start, and I have a dog, so the odds are that it's not available for a dog. So I end up literally just driving through the storm. I had found a provincial park, and they said, "How many spots do you have open?" Because we're half empty, so just come on down. I don't want to charge you a reservation fee. Just show up. So I literally drove through the storm that was took me on the highway that you normally go 100 kilometers. I was down to 20 kilometers an hour. Nobody drove crazy. Everybody had the four wheels on. You just like the thunder and lightning, and it would just vibrate the vehicle. It was just so bad, and that's where the true storm cells came in and just soaked Nova Scotia in 2023. And there was a fellow there that came over to talk to me. He had this Jackie Gleason vibe to him, right? And so he goes, "Where did you get a vehicle like that?" But he needed to know everything about the vehicle. And so we chatted and whatnot. So he knew what my plans were, and where I was going, things like that. And he's a local. And so I get up the next morning. He goes, "You're not going anywhere." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "The roads are closed both ways." So I said, "Oh, I guess I better go to the front desk and get another night, right?" So it was, and then the Amber Alerts started, and they would wake you up at 5 in the morning, and they were in the afternoon, and he would say, "Don't worry about it. If you need to go, we'll let you know." So, and I didn't. That's how friendly the people on the East Coast are. They knew I was from Alberta. They knew, I'm traveling by myself with my dog at that point in time. But like I said, he just took charge of the situation. So, because that's just the type of personality. He wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of.
Yeah.
It really is. This is the kind of thing that I really think that people should explore everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you don't, we talked about this earlier. If you only travel a mile or two from home, you only turn a page or two on the book of life. And like, no kidding, because Canada is amazing. The cultures on the West Coast are so laid back and so slow and relaxed. And you go to the East Coast and holy jumping, do they ever talk fast? And they barely move their lips. And it's like, okay, hold on. I didn't understand that. Try it again. You got to ask them like 5 times to say it slowly so I can understand. But they're the best people you'll ever meet. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're just as friendly on either coast. They love you to pieces. And it's just you got to see the people in the middle.
Yeah.
You have to see the history. Where did Canada come from? Why is Canada built the way it is? Why are people on the East Coast? Why do they have an Acadian accent, a Scottish accent, an Irish accent? Like,
Yeah.
why are there so many accents? You've got to travel. You've got to see these things. And it was BBV just made a really, hey, I saw that, Randy. You be quiet. Love you too, buddy. Anyway, it was BBV was mentioning that she was way more social than she was in Sticks and Bricks. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I find, for me personally,
Yeah.
I'm just as outgoing one way or the other. But I find everyone else is more outgoing, they're more friendly, they're more socially accepting of me. When you go to talk to somebody, it's like, I'm going into my house, leave me alone. Whereas you get somewhere like camping, it's yeah, come on over, sit next to the fire, have a chat. Really, I'm the same person I was 15 minutes ago. I mean, I'm not. When I saw you at your house, I'm no different than when I saw you at the campsite. Why are you friendly at the campsite, not at the house?
Yeah.
So that's where the thing comes in. So here's a thought. What are some of the most interesting and unique experiences that you've actually had when you were traveling? Whether it was the travel itself, the destination, like I saw something cool or I met somebody interesting. What really
Well,
stands out
I've
for you?
had many. If I go back to the East Coast, when I went up into um, Labrador, it was important for me to see Manic Climb Dam, and that dam is just absolutely amazing. It was just it's sat with me. I still love it. I would go back there and see that dam again. But then when I went and I wanted to camp at this one campsite, it was called Station or something like that. No services. You had to go up to the station house if you wanted to use the washroom and whatnot. But you get a campsite that's like a kilometer away from the station house, right? So, and I'm on the lake, and I'm sitting there with my dog, and got a fire going, and I hear the lone wolf howl. The way that the lake came in, and there's kind of like an inlet there, and it's there, and I thought I wouldn't have heard that if I didn't do and listen to myself and go there and just be out in nature and whatnot. But and it's just the friendliness of the people, and you ask them questions, they're more than helpful to help you, and you know, Fogo Island is another one. I mean, I loved Fogo Island, and I was actually trying not to buy stuff when you've got a little van because you only got so much space, and I did thought, I should get some touristy stuff, right? So I went into this little cafe gift shop, and it was an artist store as well. And as I'm pulling in and I'm stopping and go to get my keys to get out, and this truck comes in behind me and blocks me in. And I thought, dude, what are you doing? Kind of thing. So I get out to chat with the individual, and no sooner do I get out to chat with the individual because the parking lot's empty, right? I'm the only one there. It's not even tourist season yet. And so here's this older gentleman comes around with his business card. He writes books. So he's trying to promote his material that's inside the store and just chatting with me. So I thought, okay, I'll take a look at your books. And so I went in and I thought, oh, looks like an easy. I still haven't read any of them. I have them. I still haven't read any of them. But I came out and I said to him, I said, because he had 6 books. I said, there's only 5 books in the store. He said, just a moment. He said, come to my house. This is how friendly the people are. And I thought, okay. He says, just follow me, come to my house. And his house was like 2 minutes away. So I thought, okay. His wife was there. And I thought, okay, I'm in the house with him and whatnot. And I get books for him because he buys back some of his books. He didn't publish as many. And then he said, oh, you got to see this picture. It's in my living room. So it was a picture of him that another famous artist in that area had done up. And it was a beautiful portrait, really. He says, no, let's get a picture in front of it. He was really doing this. And I thought, would I have done that in Calgary, gone with somebody into their house and whatnot? No. But, that's just the way they are. So it's those kind of experiences. When I walked and I saw the tidal bore when I was in New Brunswick, and I went up to, I was just across from Moncton. I went to see it twice. The second time, the full moon was out, so the tidal bore had more waves in it. And, it's stuff like that. It's the natural phenomenon, the reversing falls in St. John's. I remember how I felt when I seen it. And I went back there at high tide and low tide, so I could see the difference of the masses of water, how it was changing, going in the opposite direction. Going up to Cape Norman, like everybody was worried about me being, out in the middle of nowhere. Cape Norman was really out in the middle of nowhere, and Alert Bay, I would never have thought. It wasn't even on my radar to go up to Alert Bay.
Yeah, I don't think that's on anybody's radar.
No.
It's
Yeah,
just such an out of the way place.
It's going down in even just to the tip of California and going into the Jebediah Smith redwood forest. It's just phenomenal. So it's like, and I think that's the experience, right? To see just how beautiful this world is.
We got Randy's just leaving now, so have a good night, buddy. He says appreciates all your experiences, which is
Thank you.
fantastic. We've actually been chatting for a really long time. I love this. But now, what are your future travel plans? What are your future dreams?
Well, I don't have to.
Okay, what are your goals?
Yeah,
Whatever.
I just live life the best I can. I know I only have so much time left on this earth, and I'm going to live the best I can. In the fall, now this came up last fall, I made a commitment to my friend. We're going to Portugal and Spain. We're walking another community. And this time we just purposely decided we're not going to do the 30-some K days. we're going to take it slower and enjoy the ambiance of the community, enjoy some peak. We're staying at a few monasteries and whatnot, and just enjoy. Two of the ladies that I walked the Camino with back in 2017 are on this Camino with me. We have another one that's joining us, so it's 4 of us. So we're just going to go. Whether that means there's more walks in the future, probably. But
That's not a bad thing.
no, because you'd be amazed at what you can see on foot.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a very well. It's a different pace.
It's a different
Which
pace.
is
It's
the
a
point.
different viewpoint. Stop and see the little churches. When I did the trip back in 2017, you have the massive cathedrals when you're in Leon and Burgos and whatnot, and they're beautiful cathedrals. But it's the little churches along the way that are just as beautiful as the cathedral is. And I could be in a little village of this church, and I could look over and see another village, and there's another church just as grand as that one. So it's just the culture, the history that's there.
Yeah. So there's a question: is what kind of travels are you looking forward to in the future? Are you going to be sticking with van life? Or are you going to give it up? Or are you going to be?
No, I think I always have the van and do stuff because I like camping, right? So I like to get up there and camp as well. Well, the van, in this case, my road trip is on my feet when I go to Portugal and Spain. So I'm supposed to be going to Ireland, Scotland, and around that area in 2026 for a couple months with a friend of mine. And we're actually going to try and find a van to rent that could sleep 2 people, like separate beds and whatnot, and travel around that way.
You're driving on the wrong side of the road.
Probably, yeah.
There's actually Winnebago that
It's
suits that
ridiculous
purpose.
over
Yeah, but you know what? That's part of the experience for us. Like, at least I have a navigator with me, kind of thing, and she'll drive and I'll drive and all that kind of stuff.
with a gear shift and you're shifting with your left hand.
Yeah,
It's just bizarre.
yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. I don't mean it.
This is
It's
good.
very cool.
BBV can hear you. This is good.
Yeah,
I'm sticking with BBV until I can learn how to say your name.
yeah.
Because I swear I could hear it 100 times. I'm never going to remember it. But if I say it once, then I'll remember it forever.
So, and then once that trip happens and everything's good and then it's okay, well, what's my next trip? Right? So I don't like to get too far in advance as to what to go. I mean, if something were to happen and I had some money drop in my lap kind of thing, I would love to do a world cruise.
Yep.
That would be spectacular.
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking about too, actually.
Yeah.
I saw one, I can't even remember now. It was like $10,000.
Yeah.
And I
And
should
it's
have
a-
just jumped on it right then because I've never seen anything that cheap.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I would be questioning that one. I think a lot of the world cruises or something depends on how long you go is 40,
Yeah.
50, 60.
Yeah.
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 So-
It may have been like on the Titanic or the what was
You never know.
The
What was
dinghy,
the
the
one-
dinghy, yeah.
yeah, what was the one from Gilligan's Island?
Oh, the SS
SS
Minnow.
The minnow.
Yeah.
Going around the world on the minnow.
Yeah. So there's an interesting question in that though. What exactly would you want to do with the rest of your life? Because you're not old. And the older I get, the younger you're going to become. So just one of those things.
No,
But
I'm not old, but I'm not young either. I mean, what do I got left? Do I have 5 good years left? 10 good years left? I mean, 15 puts me at 82. Think about that for a second, right?
well, it depends. I mean,
Right.
I've seen 80-year-olds that can really got
Am
a bit of pep in
am
their
I
step.
still alone in that time, or is there someone else that I got a travel buddy? I don't know, and I don't want to focus on it and think about it. If something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't
Well-
stop me.
There's a good question. Do you want a travel buddy?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it wasn't for
I don't
Marcy,
know.
I'd probably say, nah, I'm good.
Because
Like
when I listen to you bicker every now and then, it's like, okay,
We
I'm
don't
okay,
bicker.
I'm okay on my own.
We fight.
I'm okay. I'm reminded now because that would happen. Like when I was going through the whole being alone, and people would say to me, oh, the third time's a charm. Not much. Yeah, I don't know. Twice was enough. It did the deed. But
Well, you never
and
know
then
what
I would
tomorrow
hear
brings.
somebody every now and then I have well, maybe. Then I hear somebody fight. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm good. And then I would see someone I actually know that's widowed, and they quickly got into a relationship, and he's not happy. And I'm like, nope, I'm good. You know,
Yeah.
because I'm happy,
Yeah.
right? So if someone comes into my life, this happiness has to be maintained.
Right.
I'm not changing. This is who I am, kind of thing, right? And I've done the work for me,
Yeah.
but not the other thing. Am I so set in my ways that it's practically impossible? Could be.
You never. There's something to be said for being stuck in your ways, though,
Yeah.
because that's who you are.
Yeah.
And who says you have to change for someone else? Like, in all fairness to Marcy, seriously, if she didn't like me how I am now, odds are it's not going to get better. It's
Right.
this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And I've seen her when she's absolutely miserable, and it's like, yeah, and
Yeah.
like, so what? You're crusty as an old bear. Like, yeah, and I'll poke the bear. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Like, I tease her mercilessly. She teases back. It's great. But it's just one of those things. That's our relationship. That's how we get along. Just like with Randy, like just giving him the finger, and like, it's just one of those things. I mean, this is how we get along. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to change, and he doesn't expect me to change. We just take each other for where we're at. And I think if you go to get into a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a travel buddy or anything else like that, you should just be you. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't fit, great. It doesn't fit. It was nice meeting you. I have enough friends. Move on.
Yeah.
But if it does fit, great. Let's move together in whatever direction for whatever pace. But that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. So, one last question before we wrap all this up, because we've been going for a while and I love it. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Marcy, for jumping in as much as you have.
Yeah, it's been great.
I'm going to tease the crap out of you for jumping in all the time, but I do appreciate it and I want you to know that. So, what kind of advice would you have for someone else that's looking at getting started?
Oh, I think you already asked this.
Did I?
Yeah, but it's I would say get started. If you're comfortable being on the road alone and doing whatever, and I would say get started. Whether it's baby steps or because I was doing baby steps up until this process when I retired, and I took on a big 5-month trip. Now it wasn't and along that way I would stop and spend a week with my son, go see my father-in-law, and friends along the way, kind of thing, and connect, right? But that's part of the process. That's part of the travel. Got to go that way anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say just do it. You don't need a big rig. You don't need a fancy rig. It could be your car. Just go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for me, just for a little bit of context, it was the idea of building an event is fun and everything. I've worked in construction for 20 years. I'm done. I don't care. I'm done with that nonsense. So for me, it was like I want one that's 90% built because you're never going to find 100%.
Yeah.
But I want 90% so I can tinker. I don't have to build. I can just tinker. That's all I wanted. Whereas Marcy was happy with a tent trailer. And it's like, great, but this is where I'm at. And we came to a compromise where I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
Great
I mean,
compromise, by the way. Give me what I
there's
want.
some good YouTube channels out there that have said the same thing. Go do it first before you do your fun.
Absolutely.
Because this is my third setup.
Well, that's why I wanted it 90% of the way because I already knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted more than one bed because we've got kids, we've got grandkids. Marcy's got kids and kids. Your kids are not coming with us. I'm just saying, she's got grandkids. Maybe the grandkids come with. Maybe my grandkids come with us. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the idea is I needed to have that extra bed. I needed to have when the slide is in, I can still walk to the back. I wanted to have those certain things. Other than that, it's like I can redo the cupboards. I can reposition the cupboards. I can redo some of the lighting that's up here. I can redo the whatever you call this. I can redo that. I can change out the blinds. Little things. I can tinker. I'm okay with it as long as I have the bones. That's what I was looking for. Whereas when you're coming into a van and it's a blank slate, I'm a huge fan of sleep in it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks. Sleep in it.
Yeah.
Have your bed, from the front seat to the back seat. Have your bed that way. Have it so that it's sideways. Have it on the left. Have it on the right. Have it all over the place. Have it at the front. Have it at the back. Put your bed all over the place. Find out where you like it.
Yeah.
Find out what you like and why you like that. Because we were looking at Marcy was big on a Class C. She was really big on that, and I said,
Still am.
"Oh, I hate them." Like for me, by the way, if anybody in the chat has any questions, feel free to throw them out there because we're going to be wrapping this up in probably a couple minutes. Who knows? But like we were looking at a Class C, and she was saying, "Well, this is good enough." It's like, no, you can't get to the back. Forget it. I don't want it because I knew what I wanted because I traveled enough. I knew what would work and what was functional for me.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a clue. And it's like, okay, if you don't have a clue, make my life easier because it'll make your life easier in the long run. Because I already know what it is that we need.
But I've listened to her though, and she wants a little bit more simple.
She really does.
Easy. Yeah.
She very much wants simpler. This is way too much, way too complicated because it was from a tent trailer to
Very
this
much
was a massive step. And I would not recommend that for anybody. I mean, I'm kind of forcing her into it to a degree, but at the same time, when she really boils it down, she's happy because this really is. Oh yeah, you argue with me. You can't see the dirty looks I'm getting. But I'm getting dirty looks over here. But it's one of those things. I mean, there are times when we've come in here and there's been just enough room for the two of us to actually walk around each other, not bump into each other. Or a couple of times when I need a few extra minutes and she goes off in the bedroom and shut the door. It's like, good. For lack of a better way to put it, you just piss off for a little bit. I need my time. Or I need my time. You need your time. Whatever it is. We have that. But when we were looking at a Class C, it's like, you don't have that. Or an event, you really don't have that room in a van. And again, that was one of those things I knew going in, this is what we needed.
Yeah. No, I mean, for my little van, I'm really happy with the space and the openness I have made it over time. I was so proud of it at the beginning, and when I had Ziggy, because Ziggy was in the front seat, so that was his bed, and he had that all set up for him. And then at the end, he didn't like me being in the back sleeping, and he was in the front. He wanted to be with me. So then I would haul out because the bed was made for the fridge to slide under.
Mm-hmm.
So I would haul out the fridge, put his bed, it was just like almost like a dog crate underneath my bed. Like he would just fit in there perfect. He was so happy there because I was right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I would put the fridge in the front seat. So I had this set up, I do almost anything for that dog,
Yeah.
but I love the fact that how I've managed to simplify what I truly need to
Well,
do this.
that's an interesting thing. We're going to do a van tour of Donna's van in a little while. In a little while on YouTube land, it might be a while in our land, but you've got a really interesting position for your bed is because it's
Yeah.
actually up in the front seat almost.
Yeah, my feet folds down flat.
Which is interesting.
Yeah,
I've
neat.
never seen another van where somebody did that.
Yeah.
I've never even seen that in a car. And I've watched a ton of channels. I've seen tons, literally dozens and dozens of builds. Never once have I ever seen that.
And I saw it on someone else's build, and I thought, oh, and I thought I ruined it because when I bought the van, I had them swap out the seats for heated seats. I had a little luxury because this was a cargo van, right? So I went
Yeah.
from a car that had bells and whistles. Now I'm getting into a car. I don't even have a rear view mirror, you know. So I thought when I swapped out those seats that I pooched the fact that the factory seat would fold down.
Oh.
And so when I got back home and I started looking at it, wait a minute, there's a latch on this. So I'm pulling, no, it's not moving, but you got to do 3 clicks to get it to come forward. And I was so happy
Oh, no
when
kidding.
that worked.
Because seeing the way your layout is, like, it's brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it. I think it's great. Probably wouldn't work for me. And having Marcy with me, like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Would never work. But it works for you.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. So it's one of those things, like, if you had to do this whole journey to catch up to where I'm at, it'd probably take another 5 years before you could figure, okay, this works, this doesn't, this, I like this, I don't like this. Or I'm just shortcutting. It's like, this is what's going to work. I already
Yeah.
know your personality. I already know what my personality is. This is going to work. But the way Donna's doing it is great because you're doing it by yourself. You're taking your time. You're making things yours. So everything that you're doing is custom. And I think that's brilliant. That is
And it's
the way to
minimal.
go.
this minimal work I've had to do in the van.
Exactly. I think that's fantastic.
Would you ever upgrade to something bigger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that one that's down there that I would love
Be
that
like a
one.
sprinter.
I just don't know.
Not quite a
that's
sprinter?
but close, but that's a lot of money.
Those are
Well, we'll
expensive.
say the size. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a sprinter specifically. But like
I would like
there's
it so my bed went the other way and not lengthwise. And then I had that
widthwise,
garage
yeah.
in the back kind of thing, but stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. Because that's what I was looking for originally, was a bigger van. And then the prices went through the roof,
Yeah.
Oh, they're insane
know.
right now.
And then I just, like I said, I went in there at lunchtime and I walked out at lunchtime to find the van, and then I traded my car in. They took at the time you couldn't find a used vehicle, right? Through
Yes.
the whole COVID stuff. So I got, I think I paid brand new for my vehicle 32, and I got 24 for a trade-in after 4 years.
Well, that's good.
That's usually you lose 30% just driving it
Yeah.
off the lot,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
right? But then I took care of it. She only had 50,000 kilometers. It's in great shape. But yeah.
Well, how about for the last few minutes? I'm going to move over there. You can sit here and you can keep talking because you have a lot of great points. I'm going to throw you in the hot
I
seat.
don't have any more.
I'm
Yeah.
throwing you in the hot seat anyway.
You
You get to
just,
go up there.
you just want something comfortable to sit on.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But no, I think I'm loud enough. I know the microphone's going to pick me up, and I can see it over here. But you have interesting points as well, and Donna's got a fabulous story to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, of course, I'm gone blank.
That's okay, 'cause he put
Well,
you on the
let's go
spot.
back to what we were talking about then
Nothing.
for half a second. So we were talking about how you set up your van, and I've never seen anybody I've seen a Jeep where they went from the front seat to the back door.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a choice. It's a Jeep. I mean, where else are you going to go?
Yeah.
You're not going to go sideways. You have to use that space. But what would you like to see? What is it you're looking for, Marcy?
You mean in the travel?
In the travel world, you
Camping
say that you don't like
world?
this. Great. What would you like to start off with? What are you interested in? And then maybe Donna can chime in with this works, this doesn't.
Yeah. Well, for me, I would love to have like a van or like a Class C,
Mhm.
but with instead of the big overhang on the top, have more of a slanted. I think
Top
they're
deck.
B, Class B now.
Yeah,
They're
It's a B
calling
plus.
it
Yeah.
B plus. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a B
something
plus.
like that. So
Yeah.
you don't have that big. Like it's really hard to see out of that top part, like the windshield, because you've
Yeah.
got that big overhang.
Yeah.
So something like that, I would love that. Because I find that this thing is like driving a bus. I mean, it's nice to have the big windshield.
Yeah.
And you're
It
up
is a bus.
high because you're like on the level of a semi. But at the same time, you're also like it's big and the wind and
Yeah.
and you just never relax driving it. Like it's just, you're always, you know,
Because you're not used to it yet.
well, and I mean, no, but I drove it a lot down to the States
Well, you
and
think about
stuff.
it. I drove transports for a few years.
Well, you drove
It's
for,
like 75 feet long. It's like, yeah, I owned the road. It's
Yeah.
like, go ahead, cut me off. Like, I'll throw you
Sure.
under my tires in a heartbeat.
But even gas mileage is important too,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yes.
my trip in 2023 was 25,590 kilometers.
wow,
Right?
that's a lot.
It cost me $1,600. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Wow, that is cheap.
I couldn't have got that with a bigger van.
No.
I
could
bet
never
you
touch that with a
It
bigger
probably
bed.
cost that for a month, like to go down to the States and back
With this one.
with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the
It
States, it was
was-
so much. We worked it out at one point. It was 76 cents a liter.
But
the
nonetheless, I mean, it's still.
That was it was $1.50 up here. It was 76 cents down there. Yeah, I like shopping down here. It was
Gas
just
was
so much
cheaper,
easier.
but
Yeah.
still, it's a lot of money to fill it up. Like we came back and we filled up in
Yeah. So you have to have
Lethbridge.
that budget, right? And
It was $350 for.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's a lot of money.
I've never, even when I was in Labrador, and the most expensive gas I purchased, because I probably could have made it to Labrador City, and then I'm not going to risk it. All gas up. And I think it was $2.45 a liter
Hmm.
that I spent for. Thankfully, I was at 3/4 of a tank of gas, but I just wanted to keep it topped up as much
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
But I've never, $75, $80 kind of thing was usually the most that I
Mhm.
spent to gas up.
We've spent what, 350?
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah.
350.
Yeah, granted,
380.
we've got an 80-gallon tank. You've probably got 20.
No, I got more than 20. Well, I don't know. Liters now.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
gallons.
Yeah, gallons. It's probably about a 20-gallon tank.
Yeah.
It's what?
I
40,
think the most
60
I ever
liters?
put in, because I don't like to let my gas get down below half a tank.
Mhm.
I think the most that might have got down a little bit more is the 50 liters I put in, kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's another safety issue that I do it. Like, my common sense is don't let your gas tank get down below
Right.
half a tank of
Because
gas.
you never know if you're going to
You
get
know,
stuck
so
on the road.
yeah.
There's construction.
Or you think a gas station's going to be there.
Right.
Guess what?
It's not.
Because I try to travel outside of tourism,
Mhm.
the hot spots, and like after the May long weekend, I like to get on the road or in the month of May.
Mhm.
So it's yeah.
Was there ever any time that you did feel uncomfortable by yourself?
Yeah, I would say when I was in Happy Valley Goose Bay, I stayed at the parking lot of the tourism place, and down the road there was a group of young adults with drug addictions, and
Oh, okay.
that was the closest I came to
Mhm.
feeling uncomfortable.
Well, you did good.
Yeah. Or when I went up into, and I didn't feel uncomfortable. I realized when I went up to Cape Norman Lighthouse, like that. The one small town, I can't remember, harbor something, harbor boat or something, and half the town was vacated, right? It was abandoned, and I thought, you know what? No one's really driven by here for a while, so if I were to break down, there's no one around.
Mhm.
It was that desolate. It was like going to the Arctic kind of thing. The tundra changed so much, kind of thing. So that was the only other time but you know what? It survived.
Mhm.
Well, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Glad that you survived.
I survived. Yeah. To live another day and continue on. Yeah. So I mean, it just made me more aware. I think
Mhm.
at that time. I thought, oh yeah, because again, I wasn't planning to go to Cape Town. It was like, let's go down this road.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, so you only have to do it once, and then you go, "Oh, that probably wasn't a great idea."
yeah.
And you start being a little more cautious. And
Yeah.
then after you get through a number of situations, then you're like, "Ah, I'm good now," and then,
Yeah.
oops,
It was like when I got the flat tire, right? I was
oops.
like, I just got off the main highway and I was going into an RV spot, and
Mm.
I got the blowout actually. So I was only traveling around 10 or 15 kilometers an hour when it happened. But it took a bit of wind out of my sail, because before that I was going down other, because I didn't follow the normal in Newfoundland. I went off to, oh, let's go down this road. Oh, let's go down this road. That's what I did, and I'd end up in these little communities. Everybody's still sleeping, and I'm up and bombing around, kind of thing, right? And then yet those moments have led to some amazing discoveries.
Mhm.
So it was part of the experience.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Going out to BC, there's always all these roads off to off the Trans Canada or whatever,
Yeah.
that you're like, I wonder where that goes. But I've always been in such a hurry because I'm always going from A to B.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That you never take the time to stop at those falls or that little road or, that picnic area or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
because you're just, I want to get there.
Yeah. You got a destination to get to start.
Yeah.
It's like getting home, right? I'm sure there's places to see stuff in Saskatchewan. I'm sure there is, you know,
Yeah.
but it's like, I just want to get home now.
Hmm.
So I start getting back into that drive, stop, drive.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, take it easy, saunter around, go down this road, go down that road.
See,
Just
and you
enjoy
can
it.
do that in a little van.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
like this
know.
thing, it's
Yeah.
not the kind of thing that you want to just go down some random road.
Well, and I
'Cause-
encountered that when I was in Newfoundland, right? Because I go down, I'm in this little community, and I'm on the road. And the next thing you know, the road turns into somebody's driveway because that's the end of the road,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
then I'm backing up. And,
yeah.
know.
I mean, this thing is like you can. It's got reverse, but
yeah,
it's
it would
just
be yeah,
a
because
It's a little
tricky.
bit tricky.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All things considered, it's got a decent turning radius. It really does.
yeah, but it's still big.
It's not going to turn on a dime.
Yeah.
Maybe a loony.
Yeah.
But not a dime.
Okay. Good night, Kevin.
Have a good night, Kevin. Thanks for being out here. Wave to Kevin, Marcy.
Good night. Have a good
No, you
sleep.
wave to the camera over here.
good
Yeah, there you go.
The TV
All right,
show.
what do you say we shut it down for the
Yeah.
night? I think it's been a great interview. I really do. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming over for it. I really do. I think it's what a wonderful way to start a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, go.
Yes.
All
We get
right.
to wave to the camera. Say good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.
All right, that's it.
Okay.
Have a good night, everyone.
And we're up.
No, that was good, and that went by fast.